Jesus kept his harshest words for the religious leaders who were hypocrites. The scary thing about that is that the church today has a lot of hypocrisy in it. We are like the religious leaders of Jesus's day. People will say, and perhaps you've heard, I don't go to church because there's too many hypocrites there. So it's worth us looking at what the Bible has to say about hypocrisy. It seems that there's just something inside of us that wants people to think that we are spiritual. Something inside of us that wants people to think that we are more spiritual than we really are. This leads to spiritual pride, self-importance, judgmentalism, just pride in general. Instead of just being honest about who we are, we see ourselves as superior. And that's exactly the kind of things that brought Jesus to say to the scribes and Pharisees, you scribes, you Pharisees, you hypocrites. Today, the 5 don'ts of hypocrisy, 5 things that we can do to make sure that we don't follow in the footsteps of the religious leaders in the days of Jesus. Don't number 1, don't say that you love God, but hate your brother. Don't act like you're in love with God. Be genuinely in love with him, because it will be obvious over time if you don't really love him. Listen to what the Bible says in 1 John 4, 20 and 21. If someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. Boy, that's pretty strong words. Listen to what it goes on to say. For he who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, how can he love God, whom he has not seen? And this commandment we have from him, that's a capital H as in Jesus, we have it from him, that he who loves God must love his brother also. And if we walk in love, then it's going to be hard to be self-important, to be judgmental, because we're really genuinely loving someone. The second do not of hypocrisy, and you're going to get this, is don't try to help someone with a plank in your eye. So Jesus told us not to try to get a speck out of someone's eye when we have a plank in our own eye. Listen to it in Matthew 7:5. Hypocrites. And remember, the word hypocrisy means actor. He's saying, actor, hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. It's not that we're not supposed to approach someone or talk to someone that has sin in their lives. The Bible says in Galatians chapter 6, if anyone is in sin, let those who are spiritual go to such a one and restore them in a spirit of gentleness, considering themselves, lest they also be tempted. So there's a time to correct someone in love and gently, but you can't do it with a plank in your own eye. Hypocrisy is one of the most ugly things that is out there. We know it in the church, and the people in the world know it as well. The third don't is don't do worship outwardly only. It's not bad when you worship to worship outwardly, but you got to make sure your heart's involved in it. Sometimes people are involved in worship, they're raising their hands or they're doing a little dance, and we think, oh, how spiritual, how they really love Jesus. I wish I loved Jesus as much as them. Or at least that's what we're thinking when we're raising our hands and doing our little dance. If we're raising our hands and honestly swaying and dancing before the Lord, that's powerful if our hearts are right. But if while we're doing it, we're thinking, these people must think I'm really spiritual. They must be looking at me thinking I've really got it together. Then we are no better than the hypocrites that Jesus kept his harshest words for. I'm not being critical against outward worship in church. I love it. I want it. I just want it to be real. Listen to what it says in Matthew 15, 7 through 9. Hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy about you, saying, these people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me, and in vain they worship me. In vain. We draw near with our lips, but our hearts aren't right. Better to make sure our hearts are right and not have outward expressions than to have outward expressions that are pretending. But the best way is to honestly serve God and truly lift up your hands and worship him with sincerity and without hypocrisy. The fourth don't of hypocrisy is don't do things to be seen by people. Don't do religious activities just so people can see you. And sometimes this can be conflated with the idea of witnessing. Well, I'm witnessing. That's why we're praying so long in the restaurant. Well, the football player is sharing his love for Christ. He wants people to know he's a Christian. And that's why he's bowing down and praying in the end zone. My question is that the right thing to be doing? Or are we looking religious for the sake of people instead of honestly praying? Listen to what Jesus says in Matthew 7, verses 21 through 23. And when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen by men. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut the door, pray to your Father who is in a secret place, and your Father who sees you in secret will reward you openly. The things the Pharisees were doing were so that men could see them, so men could think about how spiritual they are. We ought to think about what we do in public. Are we doing it just to be seen? It doesn't mean we don't pray for meals. Just don't make a show of it. It doesn't mean that someone can't go into the end zone and thank God for them being able on such a large stage to be positive. God's going to use that in their lives, but it doesn't mean they have to kneel down and pray, do something that looks religious, because Jesus said, don't do it to be seen by men. The fifth and final do not about hypocrisy is that we don't know what we don't know. When we look at someone and we think, well, that person has sinned, or we make a judgment on them that's an outward appearance, we don't know what's going on in their heart. And we can think that we are better than them, when in fact we might have problems in our own life that are worse than in their lives. Rather than comparing ourselves to ourselves, the Bible says those that compare themselves with themselves is not wise. We should instead just honestly serve God. Listen to what the Bible says in Luke 16:15. And he said to them, you are those who justify yourself before men, but God knows your hearts. For what is highly esteemed among men is an abomination in the sight of God. When you're doing something that you think is highly esteemed, and you might not even know what's going on in your heart, the Bible says that we have hidden faults that have dominion over us. The psalmist prayed, search me, O God, and know my ways. Try me and know my heart, and see if there's any wickedness in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Could there be wickedness in you when you're looking around, acting spiritual? Could it be hypocrisy that is appalling in the sight of Jesus? The last thing that I want us to be in the church, and in my own life as well. By the way, as I'm talking about hypocrisy, I'm talking to myself as well. I don't know that there's any of us that haven't gone down this road before and acted more spiritual than we really are. But the last thing that we want to do is be like those that Jesus kept those harshest words for. We want to be genuine, we want to be sincere, we want to be real, and we want to lack hypocrisy. We'll see you next time on Hot Topics.